So welcome everyone to our Xoogler and Friends Founder Q&A. I'm Steph, your moderator, an ex-Googler and a program and product leader. And we were just reminiscing about some old school Google stories, but it was really cool to be able to be part of the hyper growth team at Google, building up and scaling operations there. And since then, I had moved on to the New York Times and worked in nonprofit. And for the last 9 years, I've been building community with the Xoogler network. And I specifically lead New York and the Women's Network. So you may see me from time to time, and it's really nice to meet you if this is our first time chatting. So why are we here? We really are at an incredible time in history. And I think we are simultaneously presented with immense opportunity, but immense risk as well. And specifically in regards to AI and its impact on communities, people, the environment. And I know I have lots of questions about what the future holds for us. And in March, I actually met someone who might hold some answers. So just to quickly introduce Christina to everyone, Dr. Christina Yan Zhang is the founder and CEO of the Metaverse Institute, and they advise the United Nations, governments, investors, and corporate on identifying effective use of frontier technologies across industries for the people and the planet. And she has extensive experience working with UN leaders, government administrators, ministers, university presidents, Fortune 500 CEOs on innovation. So I'm just going to run through some of her accolades. It's kind of incredible, her background. So obviously she's a leader at the UN, but there she helps to set international standards on emerging technologies. And she co-chairs a group on standardizing the CitiVerse, which is the UN's take on AI-powered, citizen-centered digital futures. She's also shaping the future of fiscal policy at The Economist. Impact. The Economist Impact is basically the consulting arm of The Economist magazine, for those who don't know. And specifically, they have an AI economy board where Christina is a member. So that's really cool. And right now, alongside the 73rd president of the UN General Assembly and the CEO of the top academic journal Science, which many of you know, I'm sure. She's one of 6 leaders appointed to an advisory council for the Center of Science Futures at the International Science Council. And the International Science Council is the world's largest science body, comprising of 250 national and international science academies. And right now, they're exploring the future of science to benefit all. And finally, in a significant step to bridge the global digital divide, her company, the Metaverse Institute, just signed a memorandum with the African Telecommunications Union on developing the governance of an AI-powered metaverse across Africa's 52 member states for 1.5 billion people. So it's pretty incredible, to be frank. And Christina operates out of London primarily. Right now, she's in Spain. And I know I'm often sitting here in my US-centric view of the world. And when I saw the picture that Christina was presenting, I was really kind of taken aback because I don't often think about the rest of the world, to be frank. And not only is she in Africa, doing work with the African Union, she's also talking to civic leaders in the US, the UK, across Europe, in South Korea, China, and the Middle East. I mean, it's pretty incredible. She's really in it, and she's truly a global citizen. So she's here to connect the dots for us across industry sectors like software, VR, technical, and energy infrastructure, the economy, climate, education, and beyond. And I've personally not met someone with this level of depth and altitude on these topics. So I'm super excited to speak with her. So typical Q&A format, right? I'm going to ask some questions just to get us thinking. And but I really want to make clear that you all took the time out of your day to be here. and you should be able to get everything that you want out of this conversation. So please, at any time, if you have a question, raise your hand, ask a follow-up question. All of those things are fair game. The chat is also open, and that'll also let me know that you have something to say. So please do use that liberally. We also love to see reactions. So if she's saying something that's interesting to you, or you're like, boo, I don't like it, or whatever, if she won't do that, but if she does, you can use the little emoji, send a reaction. Thanks, Kevin. Little reaction icons to just kind of let us know how you're thinking and feeling. Okay, you guys good on the format? I've covered everything. Okay, great. So let me start off. I'm going to spend about 20 minutes or so asking some opening questions. And then again, I'd love to open up the floor to the rest of you as well. So let's just get started. The standards. So Christina, you're setting standards for 2,000 cities around the world around, what a smart city is. What are some of those standards that you've approved so far? I heard it was like something like 6 of them. And what else is coming up on the horizon?
Steph, thank you so much for hosting me today. And it's absolutely a great honor to meet so many forward-thinking, global community from Google. I feel very honored to be with you here today to share some crazy ideas on how we can make our world a little bit better each day. So going back to the standard, I started to get involved in the UN actually quite early. So I was with the UK's National Committee for UNESCO in 2010, but that was going back to my student politics time when I was representing 1 million international and European students studying at 600 higher education and further education institutions for 2 years on top of my full-time PhD. So that was quite crazy because I was, the population I represent bring in $60 billion a year to the British economy, which is the second largest economic impact sector overall. So naturally I got invited to sitting on more than 20 different governments committees with UNESCO, World Bank, Commonwealth, etc., to advise on innovation. But that was nearly more than 15 years ago. And my most recent involvement with the UN started with International Telecommunication Union, which is the ICT agent of the UN, which has been founded 160 years ago, is the oldest UN agency. So there we have been setting up international standard around the definition of Metaverse, as well as CitiVerse. So CitiVerse is Metaverse for city, especially using AI, digital twins, quantum technologies, 5G, 6G, etc., to create what we call citizen-centered digital future. So both definition has already been approved by the UN, comprised of 194 member states and 1,000 industrial partners. I also authored the first UN roadmap on what government entities, investors, big corporates, academic institutions, NGOs, etc., can start their people-centered, planet-friendly digital future. So that report is called People-Centered CitiVerse. And this is the first report approved by UN member states and sector members around this topic, around CitiVerse. In addition to that, we attach great importance on how technology should address existing global digital divide of our world. So as you can imagine, currently we have about 2.6 billion people in the world who are not connected to the internet. So that's 1/3 of global population. So there are 2 standards we created looking at how to use metaverse related technologies to address the global digital divides, both from a regulation perspective as well as practical perspective. So that's another 2. And the last piece is we have been working with UN Tourism, looking at how to use immersive technology to create more accessible tourist experience, both for people with accessibility needs, as well as for countries who want to attract more tourists to visit their local communities to create more jobs, as well as how to address over-tourism, which means that when you have way too many tourists during summer holidays or peak times, how that's not going to impact on local communities like normal life. So that's the sixth standard, which has already been approved so far. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, wow. That's I think it didn't click for me initially that this was there's such a heavy, truly metaverse angle on this where you're giving people experiences of these cities and places virtually. So that's really cool. And like, so tell me what's up next. Like, can you give us a preview about like what else is kind of on the horizon?
Well, so the CitiVerse initiative, which I proposed and being approved by the UN 2 years ago, initially as a pre-standardization task group, has now been receiving mandate from both International Telecommunication Union as well as the United Nations International Center for Computing, so UNICC, as well as Digital Dubai. So it became a global initiative involving more than 6 different partners and multiple UN agencies, looking at how we can use comprehensive 3D immersive internet to really create the next generation of smart city to ensure our diverse citizens' needs, whether it's an aging society, whether it's gender equality, whether it's people with special needs or people from low-income community or LGBTs, etc. We will find much more effective solution at scale to support their diverse needs and ensure when technology progress, no one is left behind and everyone will have more opportunity to flourish. So we are taking a lead to do the detailed evaluation and assessment framework for the UN. And we have been very lucky to be supported by nearly 30 of the world's leading authorities covering issues like interoperabilities of AI, data, smart systems, cross-jurisdiction, things like cybersecurity through the involvement of Interpol, as well as public infrastructure through public investment funds, which is the sovereign wealth funds of Saudi Arabia, which they manage a portfolio of nearly $1 trillion US. And also we're looking at things like digital identity, how to fight against deepfake. So we have the Deputy Chief Executive of the United Nations Joint Staff Pension Fund, DINO, who has been developing effective digital identity biometric-based system to verify the beneficiary of more than 80,000, beneficiaries of their pension funds, if they're still alive. So that system, he developed that in 2021. But now this system actually has been utilized to looking at fighting against deepfake by different industries. So there's like quite a lot of interesting things going on in what we are doing now. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And if you have questions, feel free to raise your hands. I know, honestly, some of these concepts are brand new to me as well. And so, if anything feels unclear, like feel free to ask in chat. I think one of the things that stands out to me here is using the metaverse as a tool for bridging that digital divide. And I think that that's pretty exciting. Can you tell me about some of the other projects maybe? I know you mentioned like some of the interoperability between all of the different systems. You mentioned the deepfake stuff. What are some of the other ways that you're seeing these cities employ the metaverse to bridge that gap with their citizenship?
Well, so I think maybe it's better to have a clear definition of what the metaverse really is, because when a lot of people talking about that, they think it's something new. It's mainly as a result, perhaps Facebook changed the name into Meta a few years back, and suddenly worldwide everyone is very excited about the potential opportunity of the next generation of 3D immersive internet. But Metaverse is more than just meta. It's based on what we have been looking at from a UN perspective or a more practical perspective. The Metaverse has really become a convergence of a whole new range of technologies coming together to form the next generation of the 3D immersive internet, which is more interactive, immersive, and also it's giving opportunities to many people in a way which never happens before. And if you're looking at the latest developments of AI, there is a lot of convergence there as well. So Professor Fei Li, who is widely considered as the godmother of AI, was able to raise more than $230 million last year to create World Lab, where she was backed by pretty much the whole Silicon Valley, all the giants, looking at how to use AI text prompt to create 3D virtual world at scale. And what she was doing is now being highlighted by the CEO and founder of Google DeepMind, Dennis Hassabis, as Google's route to achieve artificial general intelligence. Because if you really want to allow generative AI to understand the physical world we are in, we need to create 3D virtual world with physics at scale. And of course, if you're looking at the latest developments around NVIDIA, the CEO, Jin Huang, is talking about using 3D large world model to create humanoid robots for training purpose, which is going to generate $50 trillion economic impact in the years ahead, which is probably nearly 50% of the global GDP. So there is a lot of synergies between the metaverse concepts and AI coming together to really create the very best of our physical world as well as our virtual world to support people's daily life and work at scale in a way which never happens before.
I have so many questions. Specifically, no, in a good way. Like I actually want to jump down to one of the other questions that we had, right? Which I think that all of this is really exciting. And I do think also there is a lot of fear around this topic. And, what happens when you start to digitize experiences for your citizenship, you start to leverage biometrics, you start to create 3D versions of these spaces. What are some of the concerns that are emerging on this topic with the different leaders that you're talking to? And what are some of the things that you all are doing to mitigate, to make sure that it's used wisely and ethically and not just, as a tool to say maybe in the worst case scenario, right, control your citizenship or your citizens?
I think like the biggest concern at this moment is inequality, because if we're looking at the latest statistics in terms of AI capacity on a global scale, clearly United States and China are the leading player in the space. And if I remember correctly, probably 75% of patents around this area goes to those two countries. And for the rest of the world, especially say in Africa or Latin America, there is not sufficient AI infrastructure in place to support them to maximize the tremendous benefits of these wonderful technologies to benefit the well-being and economic growth of their people. So I think the UN Secretary General had a very clear call early this year and basically saying that AI shouldn't become a new form of digital divide, and he even gave it a new name, the AI divide of the world. So we need to ensure everyone have opportunity to access this technology, both from a digital literacy perspective, as well as jobs opportunities perspective, because there is also a lot of fear, as you rightly point out. So for example, IMF highlighted that AI will potentially automate 40% of the jobs in developing country, but in developed country, that will be 60%. So roughly we're talking about 50% of the global jobs will be automated by AI. And then the question is, where do we create new jobs? we should be prepared for our labor market. So there is not so much fear, and there will be very clear direction on which way we should be moving forward collectively as a human species. I think that's very important. Yeah.
It's crazy that you're in conversations about humans as a species. It's like, it boggles the mind sometimes. Okay. So I think, let me take it back to maybe a more positive direction, which is maybe positive, maybe not positive. Actually, I should be more neutral. But what does the future look like to you, right? After all these conversations that you're in around the world, what's your perspective in terms of the direction that we're heading in with AI?
I think technology itself is neither good or bad. It's really up to us, human, collectively, to utilize it to the maximum benefits to our fellow citizens and friends. That's why, the more we're working on technology, the more we realize the importance of putting people's needs at the center. It doesn't matter what kind of technology we're utilizing now, whether it's blockchain or AI or metaverse or digital twin or quantum technology or space technology, you name it. If it doesn't help to make our people's life better, it doesn't enhance the well-being of our life, it's not going to last. So you need to go back to the basics and see how it can help to make the human society more harmoniously and expand our quality of life. That's a key. And then I'm talking about like future. I'm actually quite excited, very excited, yeah, because there are all kinds of crazy and amazing technologies on the horizon, which is going to have really major significant impact to ensure a lot of us will flourish and benefit. And I'm very happy to give you a few examples here. Some of them might be a little bit crazy, so I need to warn you about that. But I guess I want to give you some figures and the facts. The first thing I think which is most important at this moment is energy, especially sustainable clean energy. Because if we're looking at the latest figures from International Energy Agency, so the AI server market is actually at this moment, they are growing about, I would say 10 times by 2026, rather than, compared with where we are now. So it will be ranked as 45th country in terms of like energy consumption, which is quite a lot. So we need to figure out how to maintain the, fast advancement of technology at scale, but also we shouldn't forget, we still have a major energy poverty situation in the world. So World Bank has estimated that over 1.2 billion people in the world, which is about 16% population, are suffering from energy poverty. What that means is either they have no access to electricity or they have less than 4 hours of electricity on a daily basis, which is really bad. And most of them actually are in Africa. So how can we ensure there is a balance between some countries moving very advanced in terms of technology, where some other countries don't falling behind, right? But I think we already know the solution is in place. Perhaps the most radical one is nuclear, both nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. And the nuclear fission, we have been using that for many decades already. But for fusion, we see lots of exciting breakthrough in recent years, especially I think since 2022, when the United States in the National Laboratory in Lawrence, they have made scientific breakthrough in that kind of space. So lots of things are happening very fast. I want to particularly highlight one interesting case which took place in May this year. So China actually activated the world's first commercial thorium-based nuclear fission. Why it is so important is we know that for fission reactor, there is a risk of its melting down in the case of earthquake or other like accident, which can be quite dangerous. But for thorium-fueled nuclear fission, especially using like a melting salt, it can ensure the meltdown possibilities close to zero, which is quite remarkable. And also they will produce 90% less like nuclear waste with only 3% long-lived radioactive waste safe. So it's quite remarkable. That's one area I think all of us will need to watch out for in the years ahead. The second thing, it's actually my favorite. It's a brain-computer interface. I hope you don't get too scared. So this is something actually has been there for quite a while. I would say nearly 100 years, because like in 1924, a gentleman called Hans Berger is called the father of EEG, and recorded the first human EEG. So that's the very start of the whole thing. But the recent discussion, especially with Elon Musk Neuralink, is getting a lot of publicities. But what's really remarkable about that is at this moment, it's mainly for medical purpose. So there is a Swiss gentleman who was able to walk again after he was paralyzed for more than like 12 years. By using BCG, he was able to gain mobility again. And also, we also understand another really important thing for us now is the aging society. So a lot of people, when they get old, they start to lose cognitive abilities, like loss of memories. They don't recognize their families, friends anymore, which is really, really sad. And I think according to WHO, the latest figure is there are 57 million people have dementia. And that's about 60% of them are actually in low and middle income countries. And this figure is going to grow to about 78 million by 2030 and 139 million by 2050. So imagine using BCI to support this major aging society. So people who do not remember their family anymore, they will have a brain-computer interface, which will help them to gain cognitive abilities, which will be very, very important for many years ahead. Yeah. So I think that will be like the second part. And of course, the last part is something I think is quite important. It's called food security. So the UN highlighted that 29% of global population, so we're talking about 2.3 billion, are suffering from moderate or severe level of food insecurity. And 52% of them are in Asia, 36% in Africa, and 8% in Latin America and Caribbean. And but that's a quite serious issue. And another major issue is quality of protein. So I don't know any of you doing lots of sports or maybe really pay attention to healthy living. I do. So I will analyze the percentage of protein I'm taking on a daily basis. I can tell you chicken breast is 27 to 32%. Tuna and salmon is 25%. Beef is 25% and cheese 30%. But based on our current estimates at the UN, there is going to be a major issue about protein production by the year 2050, which we estimate the whole world will need something like 286 million tons per year. And based on our current farming industry, is not going to have that kind of good quality of protein. But do you know what's the kind of most amazing solution? You'll be surprised. It's actually
protein.
Protein.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a protein called marine algae. You know, the seaweed.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a special type of micro algae. You can't even see them, but their protein level, you'll be surprised, is 70% of protein. That's like twice than chicken breast or, beef or any kind of food we are eating now. And the most beautiful thing is they can grow 10 times faster than any traditional crops. And remember that the surface of the earth, 29% is land and only 11% is for agriculture. The rest, 71% is for ocean. So if we start to grow this at scale, it's going to address all the hunger and the quality protein issues of our world, which is absolutely phenomenal.
So basically, our next venture is seaweed farming.
Exactly. And I already see investors doing that. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, let me take it to the chat because there's a little bit of there's some questions bubbling up in there, and I think a lot of it is around policy. And so, Anna, do you want to unmute Anna, or do you want me to just ask on your behalf?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Christina. Nice to meet you. I'm Anna, and I was just wondering, like, especially when you were talking about Neuralink and just brain-computer interface, but really everything, like, there's this question of like, can we do it? It's so exciting. Like, technically, can we make it happen? And that's so cool. But then there's also the philosophical aspect of like, should we do it? And I know that in at least my experience at Google was like, yeah, there were small pockets of people having conversations about the should, but they're very drowned out by the coolness factor of like, can we do it and how can we do it? And I'm just wondering, do you have a sense of like, I'd love to get a sense of the nature of those kinds of conversations that you're in around the should and the ethics and the policy and the regulation. And is anyone doing this well? Like, is anyone balancing the can we and should we well that I could pay more attention to?
Ja, dat ook heel zeer was ik dan niet lang ik fox zeer maar hij maar schifro dat dan niet zien zo niet was zie je maar schif right we know zie euro so sharp so what's this die is ga eerst aan ja was maar zie je niet zie wat je zegt niet zo niet nou ja heel dat is nog wel Safir, I mean, hasn't so we'll see it. So I'm new scared if it's not same of I hate zero near zero, all Chinese need see it, see down again now. We usually nothing last week since me say traps it's very yes, me or scare. Nichts was only see Shuif. No, happy there was a had in a flat is in I wish it first when that Shuif very when that Shuif when so very when see. Nou, ik heb zo'n zwaar zeer niet zeer zo niet we zijn stap ja geen heel veel moet zich nog gaan zo is zo'n als maar niet zo dat er niet moet zich nog was niet dit laat zeer er ook niet wat was je vaak niet aan je gaat het was zo'n dat de aanbieder zeer zeer die nog is de schale ook zo of na zijn wij heel is de schale is schalen wij er زي ما بقولش روح يجينا ما عرف يرفصها الأشياء اللي بخناس نيسي صعب زي شو وني أوكيش ميلي بيش نوقنا وبرغو سعدي لي متسع سحنا بروس شو وني أشياء شي روح يجينا أشياء ما بحويتي وانا ساعة فنرشو وأسوء أبوك سايشون كحوان نصاب بتصعب وانا يزني حسنين ويش لاحظ على اللي فسيني وصال سيشو Schmaß noch geschnackt, was mir nicht. Ich macht sehr viel auf sein Arbeit, wo ich die aus so an war so oder und na sauber. Sie noch die noch ja. Smach nicht die so man ihr bei uns da ist. Sie ich kam. Verse ja das ist nicht na und chance nicht auf so gibt sich hier da ich wohl so ist na nicht kommen jetzt hier hat Nazi, the moons, that the smoke, these ones, we sound yes, surf. Scatter that, survey, must be no one say that, yeah, stuff that, always know which thing now says they're free to leave them and on us. Hurry, so must be if I heard Mama, Stefanie, not sure around fools, also her ocean is happening, and I can get searching meeting. I have no station, and it's now a hundred station on the cast. Easy and not easier, wasn't that go or it's like this, yes, you're get off your trap, or we found slav, and he's not each the side found voice the look, or snaps, and it was trained my home, which now is somebody had him, squat hacks the or hasten as they say the bush travel between the oars. Savage new ones. Failure was the or was not inside the first snap valves of each rock him, squat, and inside the and then John that's it so John that's not all new professional grocer but I'm go yeah yes all there's a one we sell here we John that's not our stem there's that's the so nicht nicht was so nicht selber wir wohnen mit John that's not nicht wir wohnen nehmen ja snarf das ist so la throw euch Stefanie uns haben ist selber ist die ist halt nämlich so ist da irgendwie Sabo, Xoogler, ja. Sie ist schon nicht ja.
Yeah, the thing is, how I'm the showers that fit was immersion device type surfers that one explore would not run it. Her, it's in the she's from Moxie Water Fire. Wait, the worst this is the that was you know me, she schreibe das auch an, die mir das auch wie zwischen der Schauers wird es auch mal maybe most crap. Ich nehme immer, aber ich nicht aus. Na, na, merken müssen ja so yes, ja, sie sieht es nämlich, was in der Schießer machen, der ehrlich sehr. Das ist so mir auf seine Sache, es sieht nämlich, ja, sei ehrlich, hat mir auf die Umgebung schon wirklich, und ich habe very clear, die Wort, na, if Samson, sehr los, ich habe die auf die Beschreibung. So in sehr viel sie in Schatten ja ich nehme so eben so Google was ist für mich was wir als ist war ich mache aber mit nie ab mehr ich mache nie aber mit nie
Zoals de naast de systeem, zo is het hoe wij staat is de laag van meer hoe mas de voos zoals nog niet de research van zo zeer zo vlees dat ze is dus wat zoals zo vlees dat ze is die los niet maar of zo die is nog het succes is dus wat we hebben ook niet is die nieuws zo wordt wat ja wie jij het meer niet de week nog niet in het ja wie nog niet wat of in de nacht in de dus ja staat niet zich naar ze willen hoe very clear but or national personal use zelfs niet hard wat zorg iemand kan het leven met Stefanie bezichtigen het of het nog zit voor Stefanie zijn naam is dat ze angst en bewust zo sociaal niet spart niet en de schiffe sonzer maar we gaan ook de familie is hier schat ze er was er over na ze mag dus zo we zijn maar wat niet wat naast ja vind we zelf Heel remember out in that set, so the area community look on now, not set, sit down together. Well, excellent, not is the sap. Yeah, it was merch needs, it's a shirt, see here, the that ain't your little so if he so he see no moons is that arson, say, yeah, let me see.
Sinister. Flashing a sinister ocean, there, wire, and six or one evening, yes, the slow, does that one, yeah. Such a nail defects nails the opportunities the other schemes that they get in Miss girl all we and get to the Maserdo. Not snatching past that, then foster gets already first the papers and not measure merits nurse and the Maserdo. Not the CFC for snatch or be your scarcely search number after a rather scarcely question is it a service near escape. So, this is. You start seeing the snake up when it's in that box in there. Right, for all was there, it was walking it through stand and made a scalers. This is the law. If you think so, you can get your back a what's in the shop, right? I don't know what's not much. You know, which I have ever done it on. You would be successful. Just happy to what's in the hat.
No, it's not having you to will works at row not the allied so we show the swoosh. Joe sure walks arrows at Joe walks if her what sadder. Yeah, flees there's like a new guy and that space marks over them news the station is also the zeros. Each video show good for us with the very nearby. So that has very unique among so so near schlicht with Aaronage was no accession server meaning shops over the on them sehr früh was on the shall years this week so aber ich noch sie auf muss nicht yes is my in our number of going to say nein ich will ich so von what exakt as if so show videos sehr früh nicht me I will walk it not so much yeah listeners no we small leader we so it's national national shift we shows to running so see pasa sena ma now people who are not now yes yeah but if they're like more answer me so we show that more etc for videos there fish not yeah so you saw how now the go in noch so hat schon mir so we show know, yeah, fish. Very sounds a lot so yeah, and you're certain who's not on zero, so yeah, so yeah, for example, that early since it out to live for several was wild sarats never for so zero. Yeah, it for some of it's here the night will live in. No, it's not a herman's will only open in a moose to finish what maybe because it was so not first from me. First, cars need homes issue. Stands niet de sermon eaters, maar share en understand de office. Dus niemand zegt dan, krijgt als meer wil je nog geval. Ze mag ieder 6 euro dan niet. Is dat zo ook weer? Is dat zo nooit maar en ik wil niet waar je nou wat zit. Maar niet. Staan ze snel om 6 euro dan. Maar dat is niet de sermon eaters, maar share en understand wat is de schoolsnaast of these go up and they just see, now we're at over the wind, that's not after you last time we sneak me and doesn't go see the Smatter Flosser was that in him doing these must see that I most of people so Nou, zo heeft ze in de server dan de snow waschen verder. Gewacht, er staat ze in niet zo.
عشان يصير عشان ويصير عند بيو سيرة سيني سوريا زي برا أنا مسؤول بقى فارس كيف مش نمي ما سمعت سنفت قاني في العائلة وبرنا إذا مسكت سنش نمي يعني ما إيه مسكت شهر بقى إيه بس أبي ما حسني ما غير أسير بس أفني في ما Ja, het wordt dus dat niet nu vol disaster van de misery. Ze heems was nice. Het is niet dat een goede niet. Maar als je niet zei voor de door, ik kon het niet never niet. Maar voor snel op zijn met een nervous was nog zie. Maar zit ze maar voor is niet her service hier voor zijn zelf niet maar wow.
Maar nu dat ook niet. Maar nu is niet sinds er niet was al zo. Ja, ze dat is zo niet erg. Ja, niet zijn dan niet af. Sta niet voor lust. Alles je niet zeg je het is aan. Nou, we nog dus als niet staat waar we niet het is alles. Ja, nooit tijd wie hij nog dus ja. Maar wat er schip in het galon zoals die en zo voor er schip in het ja, für Augustin, das ist sehr beschwerbar, wie ist denn der Unterschied für ist Kaffee, nicht nur mit nicht sehr hoch, wo nicht nur für eine Fahrt, nicht an die Druck, für ist Kaffee wichtig, die Verhältnis, für Friedensneiger, dafür auch ist denn der Unterschied, mag ganz nicht sein, verlos so, so schnell wieder in Vorlauf, was den haben wir schon very lost for, so wir was sehr schnell, so haben die Erbach, gerne. Startzakken maar zo is niet voor een voor niet door sisters is er best alles is misschien zo zorgt het is rams ja ik was is de borst niet ja dus is neerwacht is er also we zo wat is er serie now is er ook wat zie dus niet vallen niet bij heel nou je hoeft er weer van zes naar een show je hebt nog niet dus dat zie lang is dat je was Sheriff is in de storm waar we en dat is nog ik val ze aan server visual is nou roosje en zien server dat ook dat is leuk zijn zo dat is gaat de omstaan nou voor we maar is die visual ook is dan nog niet oud maar voor we zien nog het zo niet zeer zo wees nog hier naar zeer zo wees ja is niet zeer zo zien dus het is server dat maar waar roosje is Wees de saam van Sharon is kind of er vliegen rust staan is niet wissel om de ideeën naar her mag ja heel wat nee is misschien een job dan en als er een staat nervous is dan om die wel niet wees in die oorlog mag ik die os ja we doen dit zelf is ja een jos ik moet me over sometimes niet she niet naar de iets zelf nee, nu je zegt in de soms niet zo, maar Vietnam niet is niet want zag je ze hadden net zo wat ze eerst niet. Dus er is nou je ze bedoel wat niet. Na zo, ja, zo is dus in die service dus. Zo.
Nee, ja, we nog een extra maar ook heel erg hier. Dus we weten niet wat zijn. Dat doen we maar dus. Nee, oh, je wordt staan heel sterk. Maar Sisi Mercedes Vaxes Nerves all being vigorous Raps and all it server and millers. He has a certain ma so set the billion name of the dignity. Master why.
Voor zoek van die video sexual net is de status allemaal dat ze is niet gewoon maar niet is nu ontzettend snaaks die vrouw ze de lange sneeuw zero zien en misschien waar je staat neem je maar zero slow zelfs nog zero zoals noem je rust is de niet gewoon is het met zero slow zelfs is nog zero zien is de bezet zero zo zero slow bezet sehr früh ist und es besser nicht so ist doch ich würde zero slow ist so nicht auch nie bei was sie zahlen wish then others first that's a looker so first that's a machine or so see I'll be not shit over the Sarge wish see long as this near them so you should I will this near you were not so start was machine over quarters now others stands near this kind of phone now but only of each melee is no wish so I have not sham my wish that was so yeah because shit over mixes Sarge دوش ليشون إحنا سنسو نيجي وشحذا يوزعدوش نشيدي سر بالصور في وقت مرة سر members كسرنا سيات سر memory يا بروح شو observe this is not سر بالصور نسوي سو كسي شو بيرادوس شوي فوشي ديلنا فينال سر نسوي مرد سرعتنا مرشنا سيكسويش نتسر شويش دسني إما تعتير وخ يبصر سامي Sis is not in so I'm doing really serve for the so out. Stoppers, I think is awesome. Yes, remember if you under no hot for yeah. We did our work, but we videos I should fat so was mercy for there's nothing as it is so he'll so stairs, mercy is yeah, see on as this more sneak, yeah, it. Yes, you have to self-serve them. Mercy, service, serve them for machine fatties, more. Sure, not sometimes need I just need my hair wear those. Yes, we say, the organizer is no instead of needs actually no way you got this yet. For each day, as issue, maybe you should get no transmit. So, the shots. No, we use no for neatness, so now. Is there any specific meaning? So what up? She had any not sell the oyster, is all one knab the wolf sandwich existing her. Snumber Wagner free, you know, Knazzle. Money is sush, if there be ish or little shan't was more. That's happening. Skin on passage on investigation. Even though she said, but the story is a lot so. Mainly, if it's me here, but as you're around, she a little. So what so is here for others. PhD met op vijand was maar serieus erop. Serieus niet dat of naar zich zag. Er nog is dat doet zich voor je. Ondanks niet helemaal wie naar de groep zo aan op. Maar ze is er nog maar doet samen. Stabiel zo wat op. En zo zoekt niet. Wat zijn er ook feest in mijn kans zeg we dat zo maar zo wat. Was er zelf die staan we niet wel niet lekker samen. En dat ze stabiel was. Yeah, she first started with the door in my heart. So, yeah, easier from us. Yeah, it's very cute. So, we stand more early for that. We'll move the more face and we go on the serve. And then we'll see me turn off there. Well, let's go to spot us. Yeah, this name so hard. Shall we sing this bit?
Say, our come up on your maxis. What? Oh, was night. This gets a winter hair off. Let's do it. We get there night. So, the mustard. Say, eat it from when you or when I was eating this like herbs, there nights and yes, sir, any was sir nights, and there are 6 or 7. Was, well, so you just have a girl foot, and it was well, and then the snitch talking to go, some excited, or enemy of God, and that's saying that I don't see no smack. You're better back there. I'm off the medic said. Like me to get out say I want to just now yeah the sky road that's it higher in the side doing a little thing so I just know whatever I can whatever go your way you need to mix message first and the higher research well was I you were that's you see was yes and it must have even I was all that on my never assaults actually not me great person it's with a lot next a lot for tonight here's your next up you fit me out as if was and she is remarks but I know we even if you're back I just will be able to tonight or he believe that I'm after the first all we either even we were yet about tonight you can get set I just it's there so I'm not here I'm no fan we school but this was I hope it's that's her boost, Miss Economy, Maurice, this black in the festival house, it black. now must and onions or no, even she's and now even off either sharks or measure and that. Oh, the better you very fast, as you're sitting circus, or started, and better see shoes. Yes, it is that. Oh, they were position and a ill position, but our native standing it, see what I'm and you're crossing or soccer. Yeah, we so we already this is new part of the solution and you right the news doing we're fine and they see more on tonight. Yeah, for this or with a several other get from the phone with so you crap and it's been dealers around this and there's so many others the boss and tonight. Horrible. That's so yummy. He is in the home now on tonight and it's in the sun there be learning there's no for us there but on certainly not near previous all for our leader still not all the number of states or my fix sir but I'm your walk by in the diet that's never like the neighbor I was not mad. I need no sheet in the last neighbor right so my nail I'm letting us it's sir but I'm being a marker. Yeah, but what is it that will both the share this as it's an alien helping what if I was snail search the narrow scrape line air snit map seeing I is now sunshine and it's night and no shine you get there's no thing is out he off now rolls or with those max now sunshine and it's net map all max now sunshine and eat this back search leaves now burn a set of falls not here's the up in it map wish it ain't was already was one of this map rush no and we can them snails on us came at the back of the very east in that map. You must on it now. We give us net after the bus gas small on every snake. Oh, they would start the rest in that. Her mamma's I to her girl, even off the eye, and I have a visit net. Oh, and what you saw of me, I'm Simon of the firmer on this horse and the seats is having it. Stop me up. Simon of the is off. What's the first you can get your slots each? So street force just us in the cities better walk by no get so now we get search of story this and this other nights not for research no see no one person terminal sir night sunshine and access why sure now we thought he was a shifty nah was not proper hole but I'm giving a still higher from a surf never run it hours she even and also I used to have finished ropes and that is not be the servant sir cinema. Sir, there's an sir, even though we can get ropes there, this next tonight. And I think all people say you're sitting at soccer, see, no one can start enough for a suit, you just have to, yeah, and I get all airport. Sir, suddenly, slimmer box, snatching it on ye, say, I'll play it this night. There's this in the servant, or he's there, not what's it, now, yeah, he's sir, now we're back, any sir, see, there's no difference. Or, Sir, snake the slow now must understand your isn't it not? Sir, slow, chief the weapons in the surface of a hair on it. Snammer up the whole keeps it being not start mixed in AI, it's certainly with this it's not. Snake, loves it, serves number of being just was number. There's another few things the master, that he if it's night air, saying a little bit of that early. Hey, he were out was not. Yeah, she asked her process of very English and they were standing asked his master from that Amy see me was her once in the middle of the night heroin we will get a subscan black her I know who's the way to me looking at this ring and solid tonight talk among the open nights now during the smell from the that's tonight her it's no sheer on the lakes and the bottom is like nah. Oh, and he's further behind the rock, he's slow, he lives there, see how it's slow, slow, must having a cinema, isn't it?